dream. It's like a blessing. You know, you got Debo, George, B.A., Christian. List goes on.
You just want to piss me off going into this week, and I appreciate that. I do, actually. I do.
Defense does their job, so makes life easy for me.
I'm going to do my absolute best to keep my personal biases out of this one, but whenever you're talking about the San Francisco 49ers versus the Dallas Cowboys, it's a little bit difficult for me to do that, but I'm still going to do my best. Before we get to the content, make sure you drop a like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. We are on the grind to 1 million subscribers, and we work really hard to get you these post-game recaps as soon as the game ends. Now that we got all that out of the way, break! My friends, we had a
legendary weekend on Prize Picks.
Your boy personally made $700, and I only missed 2 out of 11 of my picks. And you guys hit me up in the DMs and let me know about it. We're about to ramp it up for this week. Remember, you get a $100 deposit match on Prize Picks when you use my promo code Mikerophone, and I post my picks onto my Instagram story at the Flight Mike for free each and every day that there's a football game. And thank you, Prize Picks, for the sponsor. Mike check 1212. What's going on, everybody? If you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, you have to admit the San Francisco 49ers versus Dallas Cowboys rivalry has been very one-sided recently. I mean, going all the way back to the 2022 NFL playoffs where Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys season ended because, well, for some reason Dak Prescott felt like it was a good idea to do a QB draw on the final play of the season. And as a result of improper clock management, the Cowboys would lose the game. And right when you think it couldn't get any more embarrassing, the year after, the Cowboys followed that up by featuring Ezekiel Elliott as a center in his final snap as a Dallas Cowboy versus the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, don't get me wrong, there were some embarrassing bits for the 49ers as well. I mean, the San Francisco 49ers gave up 3 first-round picks to the Miami Dolphins to move up to the number 3 overall pick in the 2021 NFL Draft to select Trey Lance, and I guess the Cowboys kind of got back at the 49ers by trading a 4th round pick for Trey Lance when Lance was only able to start 4 games for the San Francisco 49ers. But to be honest, that's just off the field. If we're being 100% real with ourselves as Cowboy fans, the San Francisco 49ers have been kicking our ass. To be honest, I don't think 49ers fans are that pissed off about the Trey Lance trade because, well, their current starting quarterback has yet to lose a single game when he's under center. Christian McCaffrey is making a very solid case for MVP, assuming they still would be willing to give out the MVP to a non-quarterback. And you could tell that this is a game that Dak Prescott had circled for quite some time because, well, he was embarrassed the last 2 times he faced off against the San Francisco 49ers. And the media knew about it almost immediately following the Dallas Cowboys' previous victory versus the New England Patriots in a situation where Dak Prescott should be excited about the fact that his team just got a 38-3 win. The media asked Dak about his upcoming matchup versus the San Francisco 49ers, and this is his reaction.
What was the feeling leaving that locker room last January against those guys?
No, I mean, it's obvious. I mean, we're so far past that, to be honest with you, but that's obvious. I mean, you just want to piss me off going into this week, and I appreciate that. I do, actually. I do. Yeah, appreciate that. Appreciate that.
Lost drive, you guys.
I mean, every day. Every day, Ty, every day.
So obviously this is a game that was very meaningful to Dak, and the narrative leading up to this week was the fact that, hey, maybe the Cowboys traded for Trey Lance, so Trey Lance could help the Dallas Cowboys with the nuances of the San Francisco 49ers scheme. As a matter of fact, according to Ed Warder of ESPN, Trey Lance is helping the team prepare for the 49ers this week by giving the coaching staff personnel and system knowledge from his time in San Francisco. Lance is a valuable asset for Dallas as they head into their matchup with the 49ers. I was a little skeptical about how effective that would be, primarily because the 49ers didn't run the same offense with Trey Lance under center as they did with Brock Purdy under center, as they did with Jimmy Garoppolo under center. Trey Lance is a dual threat QB. Kyle Shanahan was doing his best to utilize that skill set, maybe a little bit too much if we're being honest. And even John Lynch would say that my experience with that as a player is it tends to screw you up more than it helps. I mean, this isn't the Houston Astros banging a drum for fastball or curveball. He can't do that. that. There's been instances where teams have been way too lazy to change their hand signals, and as a result, it would help teams get an edge, but the 49ers never really struck me as that team. Funny enough, the 49ers would acquire a former Dallas Cowboy who was a little bit over a season removed from being a Dallas Cowboy when they traded for Randy Gregory and just gave up a swap of late round picks to do so. Although I don't necessarily know how great Gregory is at this stage of his career, because the reason why the Broncos traded him is because he wasn't very effective. He barely saw the field as well, and when he did see the field, he was terrible. But as a rotational piece, and I guess maybe as an individual that could give you an insight as to how the Cowboys defense works, maybe it was worth a shot. Regardless, there are a lot of storylines heading into this game. Will the Dallas Cowboys get their revenge, or would the San Francisco 49ers embarrass them once again? So to start off the game, the San Francisco 49ers came out swinging, running a 7-play drive that resulted in a George Kittle touchdown. After 3 straight 3-and-outs combined between the San Francisco 49ers and the Cowboys, the Dallas Cowboys would get the ball back and immediately Tony Pollard would fumble. Now, luckily for the Dallas Cowboys offense, the Cowboys defense had their back and came up with a huge play in the red zone. After the Cowboys offense gifted the 49ers remarkable field position, Jordan Lewis was able to somehow strip Christian McCaffrey, which is something that you never see, honestly. I mean, a running back of Christian McCaffrey's caliber fumbling the football in the red zone is one thing. A defensive back stripping Christian McCaffrey is a completely other story. So huge props to Jordan Lewis for this incredible play. One of the most underrated plays by the Dallas Cowboys defense for the night. Bear in mind, this was a very defensive-minded game, and it was to be expected, but I would say the difference between the Cowboys and the 49ers in the first half is the San Francisco 49ers supplemented their suffocating defense with a precision zone running scheme that they're famous for. At some point, even pulling out a trick play that resulted in George Kittle scoring his second touchdown on his second reception of the game. The funny thing about this is this trick play that you saw was actually ran earlier by the Detroit Lions, which probably means that the San Francisco 49ers practiced this play before and saw it ran by the Detroit Lions and decided to run it immediately now that the league became aware of it. In any case, things were starting to look really ugly for the Dallas Cowboys as the 49ers went up 14-0. The Cowboys would retaliate with a 11-play drive that resulted in a Cavante Turpin touchdown, which was ran beautifully, but the 49ers would immediately respond with a touchdown of their own by Christian McCaffrey. If there's one thing I've noticed about the first half is the Dallas Cowboys have established this brand new offense that they're running, which is the Texas Coast offense, which is pretty much the West Coast offense. And I have one very big problem with it. It's the fact that whenever you have weapons such as CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks, two individuals that succeed in extending the field vertically, you become very one-dimensional and you don't punish defenses for playing underneath, especially when you have a vertical threat like Brandon Cooks. It's kind of a waste. And I felt like that was very apparent in the first half. There were some questionable calls in this game as well, but I didn't think it was too egregious. And unfortunately, it would be more of the same in the second half. George Kittle would score his third touchdown. Brock Purdy would have 4 touchdowns on the game while entering the fourth quarter. And it seemed like the Dallas Cowboys were just overmatched from each and every single facet of the game of football. Now look, don't get me wrong. There were some plays that, in my opinion, I felt like were a little suspect. I mean, earlier on in the game, I felt like this should have been called as an unnecessary roughness penalty. I feel like there were instances where the referees didn't make calls that should have been made, like over here as well. Another instance where an unnecessary roughness penalty should have been called, or a personal foul should have been called. Even if they were called, I don't necessarily think they would have affected the outcome of the game that significantly, because it's not like this game was close to begin with. And bear in mind, I'm a diehard Dallas Cowboy fan. I never wanted a win more or a victory more than in this particular game. The truth is, Brock Purdy played out of his mind. There was nothing the Dallas Cowboys could do to stop this man tonight. He was surgical with his precision and his accuracy. The Cowboys tried to generate as much pressure as they possibly could. Maybe you could say that Trevon Diggs was injured and Deron Bland got injured later on. But I think at the end of the day, the problem that the Cowboys had was even during the events where the Cowboys defense was able to come up with plays, you didn't really see the Cowboys offense giving the defense any help. And on one hand, I want to say it's a little lazy to completely blame Dak Prescott for this, because at the same time, he didn't start turning the football over until the game really got out of hand. I mean, we're talking about the middle of the third quarter, and then the 49ers just cracked the whole thing open. At the same time, it's not necessarily the greatest greatest look when you come out and in 3 straight drives, you throw 3 straight interceptions, even though the game is out of reach. And to be honest, when he came out for that 3rd interception, a part of me was like,
Why are we even keeping Dak Prescott out there?
because it's not like he's about to drop 32 straight points in the 4th quarter. I mean, yeah, we entered the 4th quarter down 42-10. What are you expecting from Dak? You weren't able to stop the 49ers offense the entire night. All of a sudden, you think Dak Prescott's going to just come out and somehow score 4 touchdowns and 4 straight 2-point conversions within 1 quarter? It just didn't really make a lot of sense. I think defensively, this team has a lot of problems. I mean, don't get me wrong, this is a great defense, but it seems like the 49ers were able to expose the same exact thing that the Arizona Cardinals were able to expose when the Cowboys lost to the Cardinals. That's the fact that we're very weak down the middle. Now, I don't want to take anything away from the 49ers because Brock Purdy played out of his mind tonight. George Kittle played out of his mind. I mean, Brock Purdy was straight up surgical. You couple that with the fact that Kyle Shanahan is an offensive genius, and you get the reason why the Cowboys always lose to the San Francisco 49ers. That being said, I feel like the Cowboys have so many problems, and I don't think it's all on Dak Prescott. I think the offensive scheme is a little flawed. I feel like the defense officially has a weakness that other teams are going to be able to key in on, and I think the true measuring stick of whether or not the Cowboys are going to be able to return from this and redeem themselves from this is when they face off against the Miami Dolphins at the end of the year. Luckily for the Cowboys, this happened early enough in the year to the point where they could potentially fix some of this and turn their season around. But I think there's major issues with the offensive scheme. There's weaknesses in the defense, which is an incredible defense, don't get me wrong, but these are games you have to win if you actually want this year to be your year. And clearly, based upon this performance, we're still not able to beat the team that consistently ends our season each and every single year. And that's a big problem. There's a lot of problems with this team. I'll admit it. Let me know in the comment section down below if you think that I missed out on what the Cowboys' problem is. I like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.